Everybody, how you doing today? Good. So my name is Paul DiMarzio. I'm here actually representing the Token Taxonomy Initiative, and I'll explain that in a few minutes. But first, I'd like to introduce three of the members of our initiative who are here to help me in this panel. So we'll start, Brenda, if you could introduce yourself. There's mics behind you there.
Hi, my name is Brenda Lee, and I'm a program manager at Microsoft working on Azure blockchain products.
Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, yeah, it's still morning. I'm Jason Pancis, co-founder for Envision Blockchain, also acting COO. Happy to meet everybody here.
Hi everyone, my name is Junji. I work for Itaú. Itaú is a Brazilian bank, the largest private bank in Latin America. And I am the innovation lead with the emerging technologies team.
Okay, thanks, guys. Beautiful. So, why are we here? Yesterday, we ran a half-day workshop down at the Microsoft offices. Some of you, I know, were there because you've come up and say hi. Token Taxonomy Initiative is a nonprofit organization that was started out of the EEA, but it's an independent organization, blockchain neutral. And it was formed to provide standards for the token industry. And why is that necessary? Well, think about it. Everybody in this room has or has issued or has done both to a token. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case if you're here at an NFT conference. But you all developed your tokens in different ways, right? You individually went out and figured out, how am I going to define the attributes of that token? You know, who issues it? How is it issued? Is it mintable? Is it burnable? Is it transferable? Can I delegate rights, and so on and so forth. If all of you are doing this individually at the same time, you're all doing it differently. And this creates an interoperability problem. It creates a language problem. So as developers, trying to get that information out to business people is a difficult task. Reusability gets affected as well because you're each doing the same thing in different ways. And we find that a lot of times people bake too much logic into their tokens, and that makes them very static and very fragile. So the TTI was formed to try to, deal with some of these problems. How you define the token, how you define how tokens are controlled and moved, and try to eliminate some of that confusion. We are creating a global standards for tokens. We call it the Token Taxonomy Framework. We're standing up in the mezzanine this whole day if you want to learn more about it. I can't have the time to tell you all about it today. It took a half day yesterday, and I've got about 1 minute remaining. Just understand that the way that this is produced is it creates a library of artifacts that define all these various behaviors. And this is an expandable library so that when a new behavior is thought up or understood, or maybe if it's even just a slight change from a behavior that already exists, TTI members can then include that in the library and make them reusable for everybody else. And the whole goal of the organization is to produce large-scale business and technical interoperability, to make sure that, as tokens are being defined and being created, they're all being done in a uniform way so that we can actually get the sort of interoperability and reuse we're looking for. I think the easiest way to explain how this works is to think of baking, right? So when you're baking a cake, you're going to start out with some ingredients. You're going to go to a recipe that tell you how to put those ingredients together. You're going to bake your cake, and then you're going to take a slice out of it and eat it, right? Everybody understands that. Think about it this way. The artifacts that we define in the TTF are like the ingredients. So, is it mintable? Is it burnable? Is it transferable? Is it delegable? These are all artifacts in the taxonomy. The templates define how these different pieces get put together. So if I'm creating, say, an e-money token, then I use certain ingredients and I put them together in a certain way. That is all the TTF does. It defines those artifacts, defines the way they put together, creates these as JSON artifacts in a GitHub repository, and creates specifications for the tokens that can be sent to both business people so they can understand them, as well as developers so they can build them. The baking of the cake, that's your job. As developers, you actually go and write the code, and you go out and build the classes and the instances of the classes, all right? But the TTF even provides a way that sample code can be provided. So that's your 3-minute version of what the TTF is. And now what I'd like to do is talk to my panel about how they're actually using this in their day-to-day lives. So we're going to start with Brenda at Microsoft. And Brenda, Microsoft does a lot. Microsoft was actually one of the developers of this initial technology. But let's talk about this from a hosting perspective, right? You guys run one of the largest cloud environments in the world, Azure. How are you using TTF and NFTs in that space?
So actually, I'm on the Azure blockchain team, and so one of the goals that we're working on is to make it really easy for enterprises and our partners to develop blockchain solutions quickly on top of Azure. And one of the pieces that we saw a lot of customers coming to was that there's a lot of tokenization scenarios in enterprise across a number of different industries, right? So you have gaming industries, you have trade finance, you have loyalty points, and a lot of these types of use cases require defining a non-fungible token or a fungible token, but we're at an NFT conference, so focusing on the non-fungible use cases. But one of the things that we discovered while we're thinking about, hey, how can we build out a tokenization service that can help our customers more easily get started building these solutions is without a standardized way to define and describe your tokens, it's very difficult for these customers to build a solution that is sustainable and can be expanded upon in the future. Just because some of the more advanced customers that we have been talking to have noticed, hey, there's some interoperability use cases that is very difficult for them to basically get into, just because the original manner in which their token was defined was a very bespoke way. And so what ended up happening is you have to, work basically very, very closely with a trusted partner that you want to kind of perform this interoperability use case with, and it just ends up getting pretty messy and a little unmanageable. And so how could we kind of future-proof and help customers that are building on Azure prevent this type of problem in the future? And so leveraging the token taxonomy framework was one of the ways that we thought, hey, this could be super useful, right? Customers will be able to define and issue the tokens in a standardized way on top of Azure. And so in the future, if they want to expand or interoperate with different consortiums or different, blockchain parties, that's actually possible for them to do in a more easy way.
So it sounds like by using the TTF in your hosting environment, you're helping your customers get a very faster go-to-market. They produce better quality, better content, quick.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Jason with Envision Blockchain. Envision is a systems integrator. And in fact, they did a tremendous job helping us run our workshop yesterday. And in fact, if you look at your badges and if you scan the code on the top of the badge, you can qualify to win a free Envision Blockchain workshop on the TTF. So I really highly recommend that. So in that context then, Jason, as you guys are systems integrators, you work on a lot of different blockchain platforms. You work a lot with tokenization of assets. How does the TTF and NFTs in particular fit into that plan for your business?
Yeah, it's really a great question, and I guess just going back to further the explanation, both on Envision Blockchain, our role, what we do as a systems integrator focused solely around blockchain as a part of the modern cloud. We remain technology and ledger agnostic. We're of course Microsoft partners, and at the same time, we are also proud members of the EEA, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Heavily involved with various different Hyperledger projects and certified, and of course Corda certified and partners there as well. So we work on an array of ledgers and heavily focused in the enterprise realm of systems integration, where leveraging the TTF has really helped propel our ability to explain to senior leadership, specifically at the C-suite level, what tokens actually are and why they're actually meaningful for businesses, and how they create levels of efficiency that's going to help drive various business processes and ultimately reducing overall time savings and reducing overhead with respect to resource. So what's actually fascinating is, aside from the various different approaches that we take within the enterprise with respect to consulting, we of course have a custom development arm where we develop various different custom applications. And as it relates to NFTs, we've done obviously a great deal of work with various different enterprise organizations, specifically in the financial institutions, stemming from various different, loan contracts all the way out to various different implementations with all sorts of legal agreements. And what's fascinating is when you take a look at the TTF, what you really wind up seeing is the ability to repeat and reuse various different token templates. So, if you speak to the developers, or if you're aware of what an ERC 721 is, for example, you'll notice that there's specific ingredients that comprise the 721. And if you were to add behaviors such as a testable, or if you were to just isolate a behavior such as a testable, that would make, for example, an identity, right? And businesses need identities, and why reinvent that smart contract time and time again when you can literally just pull from a library of token templates called identity? And it will literally have the ingredients. We help you map the ingredients using various different open source projects, for example, Open Zeppelin. And we help take the enterprise organization through various different assessments to basically introduce, a POC or a prototype all the way through a pilot, and of course, a successful production launch.
So it sounds to me that as a practitioner in this space, having the reusable components of the TTF make it easy for you to work across multiple clients because, let's face it, all tokens pretty much have the same ingredients. There's the flour and the milk and the eggs and whatnot that go into the cake. They don't usually change. I mean, you come up with a new one every now and then, but this helps you, in your business get these things built faster, and I think it probably helps your clients also understand more clearly what it is you're doing under the covers.
Absolutely. The key to adoption in this field is having individuals really take good hold and be able to explain what we see in everyday normal life in the tokenized world. Not that everything needs to be tokenized, but realistically, implementation aside, how can we identify, how can we reuse those concepts and efficiently expedite any sort of implementation with those templates.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jason. So we've heard so far from two technology practitioners, how the TTF is helping them both host and develop new tokens. And now we have a technology consumer here, Itaú Bank, one of the largest banks in the world, clearly a lot of assets that can be leveraged, NFTs, right? Financial assets are very key for this. So could you tell us a little bit about how you're using NFT in the bank and how the TTF helps you with that work?
Sure, absolutely. When you think about the products that we provide for our customers, whether products or services, they are really tailor-made, right, for the customer. So they are unique and they cannot be interchangeable. So we can represent them as non-fungible tokens if you think about it. But we don't just tokenize things for tokenization's sake. There has to be not only business value, but also value for our customers, right? So there has to be enough engagement, not only by the bank, but also other companies that we interact with, and also consumer or our clients' demand, willing to make part of this network in order to have the network effect. But when we decide to tokenize something, we can perceive many benefits. So the first benefit that many enterprises associate with tokenizing assets is operational efficiency, like cost reduction, right? If you think about it, when you tokenize assets, you create a ledger and you create that transparency, right? That would allow companies to save on reconciliation. But if you go beyond that, you can also put on the ledger some of the common rules and business rules that will be transparent across all the entities involved in that transaction. So that will truly reduce the friction, right? Whenever you need to negotiate contracts or disputes, most of these aspects will be on the ledger. So that will truly bring operational efficiency. And from the consumer perspective or from our client's perspective, it could speed up processes as well, besides bringing that transparency. And just to give a clear example of that, a couple years ago, we partnered with two banks, Standard Chartered and Wells Fargo, to create the first club deal platform for Latin America. So in that aspect, right, we tokenized the whole process. And if you think about so many emails exchanged back and forth between the legal teams of all these entities, you could say it's around 2,000 emails. So think about the complexity of having all the clauses and all the points in the contract discussed, and also controlling the version, right, of the agreement. So it's a really lengthy process. So by tokenizing it, we were able to really decrease the time that we used to spend significantly. And from our customer's perspective, right, you are allowed to release that credit for the customer much sooner. So you always need to think about whenever you tokenize things, right, you need to see the business value. But at the end of the day, we also want to bring a lot of value for our customers. So I think operational efficiency will be the first benefit that you may perceive it. But I guess coming to conferences like this and you see other use cases on how companies have been using NFT to engage like consumers, I think it's something that we could also learn from it and really transform the way that we do banking, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities out there where we're just tapping into the potential of using tokenization and NFTs.
Great. Thanks, Junji. So would you say that using the TTF, so especially in cases where you're dealing with other partners in a certain place, using the TTF has helped accelerate that process and make the business value of what you're doing better understood?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever we think about creating solutions for our business or for our customers, we don't talk about technology right away, whether blockchain or not. We first try to abstract what are the benefits, what are the requirements. And the token taxonomy framework creates that common language that everyone can talk about, both business, technology, or even regulators. So it truly creates that abstraction that we need before we even choose which blockchain platform we're gonna use.
Beautiful, thank you. And that's really kind of the key is the common language and common ability to define these tokens. And just in the last minute, I'll just say that we talked about NFTs here because this is an NFT conference, but the TTF can define any token. It can define NFTs, fungible tokens, combinations of tokens, anything you can think of or dream of can be built out of the NFT. And these are just 3 of our members. We have many more that are all working together collaboratively to build this out. We want you guys to all be members of the TTI. And if you'd like to talk about that a little more or understand a little bit more about the framework, we're kind of right up in this corner here on the second level. So thank you very much.